So as to the role or the re-envisioned role of a constitution in the 21st century, one which can address the great outstanding problems that we are facing. One looks at the American Constitution as the great test over 150 years of diverse peoples, of immigrants who made it for themselves based on their own abilities, their own serial competencies, their own households and interpersonal relationships and skill sets which they cultivated over nomadism, through movement, through spreading, through pioneering across the seas and then pioneering across America and developing different constitutional constructs with different industries. So there was a blooming of variations of a new type, a serial type of creativity, which had already benefited from a pre-evolution in Europe and a pre-evolution in all the countries from the dispersed diasporas which constitute the American population. So to see how the American Constitution deals with and has succeeded, and now to see its great challenges and where it is failing and where people are crying out for change, and then to transpose that onto our own situation in Israel, where the American Constitution was the basis really of the unfolding of Israeli law. In fact, we see that for certain in the basic laws of Israel. The law for the dignity of humanity and the rights of humanity was crafted on the First Amendment, the first American Amendment after the Constitution, the amendment to establish religion and it is so interesting that the Amendment of the United States does not guarantee the rights of the individual, because these are God-given, these exist already, but rather they limit the rights of government to impose any form of limitation of religion, of conscience, of free speech, of the right to peaceably assemble and to petition the government for redress of grievances. And in addition to that, there requires amendments for the 21st century. The ability to be protected from the government's use of bureaucracy, of blind structures, of artificial intelligence, which divides the individual from their own abilities to congregate digitally, to assemble freely between one and the other and share digitally one's skills and one's loves and one's preferences and one's hopes and one's creativity and one's business skills. These do not and cannot be run through mediums. These entities, the freedom of assembly in the 21st century is the freedom to assemble digitally without agency, without mediums, without cost, without charges, without penalties, without supervision. This is the freedom to generate our conscience, our shared imagination, to express ourselves in humanity. This is the very core of the First Amendment, the nomadism of ideas, of sets of ideas, of the variations of ideas, the variations of wills, and the right to assemble and to share and to congregate and to petition. This idea was very well understood by the founding fathers of the American Constitution. And in fact, Madison had to push off the the inclusion of these basic rights in the Constitution itself because they were not clear enough. They did not fully deal with the full canvas of rights that humanity must be guaranteed, because this is the cutting edge of our expedition into the unknown. The rights of humanity, the rights of the individual, the empowered rights, the obligations on government not to restrict. Not to restrict is in order to allow for it to flourish in itself with freedom of expression. Free, non-penalty, without fees and without excises of assembly and of sharing. And this is the first jurisdiction of a new governance in the 21st century. The governance of the individual will